Hello everyone and welcome to my channel Tropicals Up North. Thanks for joining me if you're here for the first time. My name is Bruno. I'm originally from Australia, but I'm living in the northeast of Europe in the Baltic states. I had to get ready for this one very quickly because I have my very first Hoya that is actually flowering. Now this was one of my rescue Hoyas. I will try to show you the flowers. Look at that. Look at that. They just sparkle. This is my Hoya lacunosa. Now, I don't want to offend anybody, but its popular name is Hoya lacunosa Eskimo. And I understand that the term Eskimo for a plant is considered, especially in the States and other parts of the world, considered to be derogatory. So I'm not quite sure what it's called now. But everywhere that I look on the internet, it's referred to as Hoya lacunosa Eskimo because it has these beautiful silvery flowers. It smells, it just reminds me of the garden after some spring rain. Maybe a little bit citrusy, but it just reminds me of a garden after rain. It's just, this will be crowned. I'll have to give it a sticker, find a little crown to stick in its pot. This is my very first Hoya that has ever bloomed. It has beautiful flowers. The white little, I'll call them petals, but the corona, they're sort of translucent and shiny. No, I'm sorry, I just can't get a better close. Oh God, a better close up here. It just doesn't work for me here. Let me try. Don't focus on me. Focus on the plant. Focus on the plant. No, I'm sorry. That's the best I can do with this camera. It's just beautiful. It's just beautiful. I love this plant. Now, to keep you in touch with what's happening with my eye, and it hangs on my southwest facing window. So it gets a lot of bright sun and it's doing very well. Something else that hangs on that window, which is another one of my rescue plants, which I think is a Hoya waitii, but it, when you buy it from a florist, the only thing the label says is Hoya, but this is all the old growth, but it's got lots and lots of new growth coming out, and the new leaves are lovely and sort of deep burgundy, almost chocolatey brown, but deep burgundy flowers coming out, and it's growing very well. I'll probably, when these grow well, because the original leaves are lovely, long green with dark black edges. Beautiful plant. I like it because it's a trailing plant. Now, the interesting thing is this, in all the old growth vines, absolutely nothing happening there. Very different to my lacunosa, which is flowering because it's full of new growth. So this is putting out completely new growth, but nothing is sprouting from these. So I'll probably cut these back and maybe try to propagate them, but because the top is bushing out very well. Well, now, you remember my Hoya Australis Lisa? I had 2 cuttings, root rotted them, started them up again, and wouldn't you know it, one of them rotted again. So I only have one available here. It's also in my window that's sort of southwest facing, but it has lost its top leaves. I thought it's also a goner, but I can see here it has new leaves sprouting here at the top, and down in the bottom I can see there's the new growth point. Now, the pot is not too big because I can see roots right down to the bottom, so it is growing well. I don't really subscribe to the idea that Hoyas like to be pot bound. There's no plants that really like to be pot bound, because when you think about it, planet Earth is just a giant pot. where all our ecosystems are growing, all our huge terrariums with forests and mountains and streams and trees and bushes and flowers, they're all growing in Mother Earth, and Mother Earth is just a huge, huge pot. So, no, I don't subscribe to root-bound Hoyas. No, that's not. It's my opinion. Don't attack me. Now, this is one of my cuttings that I got. This is Hoya multiflora. I got this in April of 2023. Doing extremely well. Yes, big pot. But roots here, roots way down here. So, it's growing well. Now, this, for some reason, I read on YouTube, I've seen on YouTube and read on the internet, it's somewhat hard to propagate. This is a multiflora outer variegated. It has just a little bit of variegation on the very edge of its leaves. When I got the cutting, it was below my finger, so it had the bottom 4 leaves and it had a peduncle. It dropped off. Now, when I took it out of the prop box, it had 2 lovely leaves and a peduncle. Now, as soon as it came out of the prop box, boom, the top 2 new leaves dropped off. I think the shock of being in really high humidity in the prop box, and the peduncle dropped off, and the 2 leaves dropped off. But now I have 2, 4, 6, 8 new leaves. It does have another new peduncle here, and it is pushing out a new peduncle at the very top. This one is playing musical windowsills at the moment because I just can't quite find the right place for it. But now it's on a northeast facing windowsill. I rotate it around and it's growing extremely well. It gets a tiny little bit of sunlight from the side, from the east, maybe an hour or so of early morning sunshine, and the rest of the day it's north, but it's northeast, so more or less gets bright light, but indirect light. Just a tiny little bit of sunshine, and it's doing extremely well. And of all the cuttings that I did get in April from Finland, from Hoya Fixation, this one was the fastest rooting, which surprised me because according to other YouTubers, this one is quite slow to propagate, but it did well and it's doing well. So I'm hoping that now that it's established in this pot and there's 2 peduncles on it, maybe it will flower. Another Hoya that I got in April. It's, I have to read the label because it's a bit of a tongue twister. Hoya Chinghungensis. Well, it's a bit sad. It's not growing very fast. It did root, but it has a growth point here and it's pushing out a new growth point there. It's currently on a cabinet facing my southwest facing window. It's growing extremely slow, so as you can see, there's just tiny little plants in here. Well, we'll see what the future holds for this particular plant. My Hoya carrii on my south-facing window, 2 new leaves. These top 2 new leaves are new. It's not doing anything else, but I can see a little green bump at the very top. So it might be an actual growth point. We'll see. But I've had this for at least 6, 7, 8 months. I bought it as a 3-leaf cutting and it's done nothing except now in the last month it's pushed out 2 new leaves and it's pushing out something else, probably a growth point. So maybe it's also going to grow for me. Another plant from my haul. in April. This is a Hoya Bella, and this is the inner variegated one. Well, it is growing. I actually the cutting was very long, and I chopped it in two and tried to get two cuttings rooted out of it. Well, sadly to say, one of those cuttings rotted completely away. This one survived. This one pushed out a new growth point, and right at the very, 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 very top, it is pushing out. You probably can't see it because it's very small. It's got a very small peduncle that's coming out. So that'll be interesting to see what happens here. I might order from the same supplier, a couple more cuttings so I can fill the pot out. But it is growing and it's pushing out a peduncle. Now, let's get to this one. Here's my Hoya Jennifer. Also from the haul, growing very nice. It pushed out in the prop box, it pushed out two growth points. No new leaves as yet. It's alive and well. It's rooting quite nicely, but no new leaves so far. Just two growth points, but we'll see. Also, I can't quite work out the amount of light that this Hoya Jennifer wants, whether it wants more light or less light, but I keep experimenting, a week here, a week there, and see how it grows. Now, oh God, here we have my Hoya Callistophylla. Well, it's pushed out, and it actually did push out two new leaves. This is its newest leaf. But one of the new leaves, this is actually on a windowsill facing east, so it gets morning sunshine. It pushed out two new leaves, which it has been trying to do from that particular cutting for a very, very long time. But that new leaf turned half reddish, sun-stressed, and the rest of the leaf turned yellow, and it dropped off this morning. I'm beginning to suspect that because I can see that it's always trying to push out new leaves and it just gets these little bumpy nodes and nothing much happens. So I'm beginning to suspect that it might have flat mites and it needs some treatment with the sulfur spray. I've got some sulfur on order. I should get it early next week. So I'll spray this down and see what happens, because it just sits there and does nothing. Or if it does, it looks like there's new leaves coming out, and boom, those tiny little leaves drop off, and I'm just left with these calloused bumps at the bottom of it. So flat mites, probably flat mites. Oh, this one has done extremely well. Look at this, oh, beautiful. This is, it's called Hoya Pottsii Caranda Creek. Now, I've already mentioned this. There is no such thing as Hoya Pottsii. This particular one, Caranda Creek, was found in Australia. So technically it is a Hoya Nicholsonii Caranda Creek. If you have a Hoya Pottsii where its origins are Asia, it's not a Hoya Pottsii, it's a Hoya, I have to look at my little notes, it's a Hoya verticulata. So just remember. And interesting thing is that the cutting that I got, the leaves are sort of elongated. This was the first leaf, for some reason it's curled down. And the three new leaves at the top are beautiful heart-shaped leaves. And you can see the vining and a little bit of sun stress. Beautiful plant. I can see that it's pushing up, its growth point is vigorous and active, and it's pushing out another new little leaf. So this is my Australian Hoya in quotation marks Pottsii, but it's really a Hoya Nicholsonia Coranda Creek, because it was found in Coranda Creek in Australia. And beautiful, look at those leaves. Tiny little bit of sun stressing, but lovely. And leaves completely different from what I got in the cutting. Now, here is this Hoya cutting, which is also from Hoya fixation in Finland, which I got in April of 2023, this year. This one has taken the longest to propagate. Okay, it came with 4 leaves. It still has those 4 leaves. It has pushed out 1, 2, 3 leaves. It's got a 4th one coming out. I can't see a growth point activating, but this one, okay, it has roots right now, right down to the bottom of the little pot. But this one is also, I'm playing a little game with him chasing the sun, because it's going to be in a pot. When I repot it in its proper growth pot, it's going to be in a pot that's under my skylight, which gets 2 to 3 hours of direct sunshine in the morning. So this one is going to be up there. So this is why I'm playing Let's Follow the Sun. So I move it from window to window where there's bright sunlight. It hasn't dried off, and I just want to harden it off and not give it a shock and burn its leaves and put it out in the sun straight away. So it's growing quite well, because all of this is the new growth. But this was the very last of my cuttings that I got from Finland that will be potted up. The others are all potted up. And my very, 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 very first Hoya that I ever got. Oh, sorry. Oh, God, it's big. It's big. This was, when I got it, this is a Hoya Pubicalyx. It was on a hoop trellis. I unwound it. I made it out of 3 bamboo sticks. I made a sort of like a teepee. Didn't like that, so I got myself these, oh, goodness me, look at that. Hoops, 2 hoops, and I've attached it to that. It's growing well. It's not producing any peduncles, but it is producing new leaves here and there. And there's new growth points activating. So it is growing quite nice. I'm going to try to keep it restricted to this little tower that it's on and keep winding it around, and I don't want it to grow too crazy for me. So that's about it. Oh, there was something I wanted to share with you, so just wait a moment, please. Now, what I wanted to share with you is, coming back to this Hoya Imperialis Red. I think I might have forgotten to mention its name. It's supposedly a very big and vigorous grower, and its flowers are huge, sort of like the size of your palm of your hand. Now, because it's an extremely vigorous grower, I've seen a version somewhere on YouTube where it took over more or less half of a person's greenhouse. But for this particular Hoya, and this is why I'm now playing this Chase the Sun, to get it acclimatized to a little bit more sunshine. Because I tried to find on the internet advice on growing conditions for this specifically Hoya Imperialis Red. Now, because I'm new to Hoyas, okay? Some of them like extremely bright light, some of them like to be in the shade, some of them like to be in semi-shade, etc., etc., etc. Now, I usually follow the advice of other people on YouTube that are growing them, and I thank people that share their advice. What I get really angry about is when I find dealers, growers, and nurseries of Hoyas and the advice they give. Now just have a look at this. I wanted to know what the light requirements are for Hoya imperialis red. Light requirements, okay? Without mentioning any websites. First one, light intensity, daylight. Excuse me? Daylight? Do you mean up against the north window, up against the south window, direct light, semi-indirect light, medium light? What the hell is daylight? Daylight in summer, us white-colored people will get sunburn. So will the plants. So daylight. What the hell is daylight? Another website with lots and lots of advice on how to grow Hoyas. And for imperialis red, light, full sun to partial shade. Okay, so if I put this Hoya imperialis red in full sun and it scorches, it burns and it shrivels up and I'm left with no plant at all, does this particular website have any responsibility for giving me advice that leads to the fact that I kill my plant? Should be some sort of responsibility for what you post and give advice on. Another one, another website. Same plant. Advice, partial sun. Well, that's what I'm probably going to be planting it, where it gets like up to 2.5 hours of morning sun. Okay? And the fourth one, also plant advice on my Hoya imperialis, the light, bright shade is what they prefer, but not direct sunlight. Sorry, I don't quite understand all of this because it says in the northern zones where I am, you can grow Hoya imperialis by southeast or a southwest window. But no direct sunlight. Okay, so what about partial sun? What about full sun to partial shade? And what about daylight? So for us new Hoya growers, it's just trial and error. I'm trying to acclimatize my Hoya imperialis red. But if I kill this off, scorch it, burn it alive in full sun, all these websites that talk about daylight, bright sun, full sun, are they responsible for the advice they give? Is there any recourse for compensation for following the advice they give? No, of course not. It's at your own risk. So be careful. Experiment slowly and carefully. Try to get advice from other people that are growing exactly the same type, species of Hoya, and follow the advice. If they are having success with the way they are growing it, it'll probably work for you. Because where I want to grow this, because this is so vigorous, is up high in a hanging pot, so that it has like 3, 4, 5 meters where it can hang down, and there's a lot of places where it can vine and attach to, etc., etc. So that's about it that I have for today. It is summer. Like yesterday it was 30 something plus. Today it's raining. It's about 85% humidity outside, so my humidifier is off, my windows are open, and of course what that means is some pest issues. On some of my plants, I have found red spider mites. Well, some of my plants. Alocasias, of course. my philodendron gloriosum had spider mites. Well, first aid for them is they go into the bathtub under the shower, spray all the leaves down both sides. When the leaves dry off, I leave them in the bathtub and then I spray them with eco-friendly bug spray and leave them in the bathtub overnight because I don't want the bug spray smell to filter through. And what I do now is at least once a week on these plants that did have some red spider mites, I wipe the leaves down at least once a week on both sides. Absolute nonsense that spider mites don't like humidity because my humidity is between 55 and 60%, and every now and then I do lightly spray my plants with distilled water. So it is humid and sometimes the leaves are damp. They don't have any fungal issues or anything like that, but they did have some spider mites. So, and the easiest thing is just look at the point where the petiole meets the leaf, and that's where your little spider mites are likely to build their little webs, which they use like their highways and freeways to jump around on the plant. So, no, I haven't really spotted any damage to the leaves, etc. Because as soon as I see the spider mite, if I see the spider mites, that's it. Under the shower, spray them, insecticide, mild insecticide, etc., etc. But, we have to be prepared for this. I'm on the 3rd floor, but you could be on the 20th floor. But if you open your windows in summer, there are bugs that are going to fly in through your windows, whether you like it or not. I have some plants that I take out into my internal courtyard for the summer, and when I bring them in the early autumn, early fall, couple of those plants, citrus plants, the stems are covered in, oh God, can't remember the name of the bug, but covered in bugs. Scale, covered in scale. And I pick them all off with a pin and wipe the leaves down, etc. And they spend the rest of the winter hibernating inside and take them outside again in the spring. And at the end of summer, they've got those bugs again. So, where do those bugs come from? There's only my potted plants in the indoor courtyard. It's concrete and tiles and surrounded by 4 walls. But yes, the wind brings them in. Nice, gentle summer breezes. Very nice, but, you never know what they're carrying. So, prepared for that. But apart from that, summer, I'll do an update of another video for some of my hanging plants, my hanging wall I have right now. They've gone mad. It's warm. There's daylight is very long. 5 o'clock in the morning, the sun is already coming up. 10 o'clock at night, the sun is going down. If it's a little bit overcast, I have my grow lights on to keep the plants going. So yes, it's everything is growing extremely well, pushing out new leaves left, right, and center. And as you saw, my Hoya has nice new leaves. My philodendron gloriosum, the creeping one, I've chopped it up because it more or less reached the end of its rectangular pot. So that particular growth point, end of that plant with its main 1 big leaf and 1 new leaf coming out, that I've kept. The other 3 stem cuttings I've potted up, and as soon as they put out some new leaves, I'll sell them. So that's it for now. Enjoy your indoor gardening and your houseplants, especially now that the weather conditions are, in the Northern Hemisphere are nice and warm and humid outside. So until next time, and don't forget, please like, please subscribe. I'll be grateful for that. And, ciao. See you next time. Bye.